This is Destination Unlocked with me, Daniel Edward.
Dismount ready to depart.
Please make sure your seatbelt is not fastened and do make yourself comfortable.
Hello, welcome back to Destination Unlocked, where this week we are going to the largest island in the Mediterranean. Destination Unlocked is a conversational travel podcast where each week I'm joined by a local or an expert traveller who explains and enriches us with all of the information about a place to set you up for the best trip there. And this week we're joined by Danielle Nemesio, who is a travel and lifestyle creator known as Danielle in Sicily online. And she moved to Sicily 3 years ago, having visited for a decade, and she married a Sicilian man who she met... Well, you know what? I'll let her tell you that story. Enjoy. So, Danielle, where are you unlocking for us today?
Today we're going to travel to Sicily, Italy, but not the version that you see on Instagram, not the version that you see on Pinterest, not the version that you even see on famous TV shows such as White Lotus. We are peeling back the layers and looking at what it's actually like here as an outsider, but also as someone who has spent a decade trying to integrate themselves into the island and the people and the culture.
I am so excited about this because you've got to live there to get under the skin of it.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting that you mention about Instagram and Pinterest because Sicily is one of those places that comes up the most in those apps because it's so gorgeous. It's made for that, but there's more under the skin of it.
Absolutely. So us being an island in the Mediterranean, we are famous for turquoise waters and palm trees and architecture that will take your breath away because we have such a diverse, rich, and deep history here. So it speaks for itself that you would want to have beautiful drone footage and these beautiful pictures, and it's easy to put on a cute little outfit and pose next to the sea. And yes, that is a part of Sicily as well, but it goes so much deeper than that. The people here are unbelievable. Some of the most welcoming, warm, accommodating people you would ever meet. Some of the best cuisine in the entire world. The duality of Sicily is, yes, it's both of those things, but I think it's easy to just categorize it as that picture perfect place. And it for sure is not. It still is life. People still exist here, and daily life still occurs here, regardless of those picture perfect moments.
One of the first things that I saw of Sicily before I ever visited was the €1 houses. And
Yes.
This is what sparked my interest in, what is this place? People were selling, well, actually not people.
Towns, absolutely.
Communes were selling their houses because younger people had left Sicily and they just
Yes.
abandoned their houses.
This is a very real issue. It's a real problem here. And it's a sad one at that because I mentioned all the beauty that's on this island. And I don't want to speak negatively too much here, but the flip side of the coin is the economy and the job opportunities are not great here. And Sicily, as famous as it is for, let's say, the beaches and the food, is equally as famous for the lack of job opportunities, incoming wealth. So they started this program to try to get younger people, foreigners, to come to the island to buy this property. It's a very tempting offer. It's very eye-catching to say, come spend €1 on a house. The caveat of that is you have to agree to spend around, I believe it's a minimum of €25,000 within that first year, start construction pretty early on. But what a great incentive to get people to come here. I have a social media page and I connect with a lot of people in that way, fellow expats. And I personally know people who have signed on to take on these projects of the €1 homes. Like Sicily itself, there are beautiful parts of that and then not so glamorous and more difficult aspects of that as well.
Some of these houses, you've got the shell of a property, but you haven't got
It's
internal
crumbling.
plumbing. You've not got any
Yes,
electricity. I mean, you've got a lot of
nothing.
work on your
The
hands.
shell. But you get to customize it that way as well.
It could be your dream palace by the sea. But what you say about the economy also shows why tourism is so valued and important in Sicily.
Bravo. Exactly. I think with it being so popularized currently, with TV shows that have come out, with Instagram sort of highlighting this beautiful area, I have a conversation with my husband about it. He grew up here right in Palermo his entire life. And we like to joke. Did you ever see tourists growing up? And we're talking now the 80s and the 90s. And he responds the same way every time. Danielle, I would have never even seen a blonde on this island back in the 80s and 90s, some foreign person. And now we live here, our daily life is here, and you can't escape it. That has brought so much wealth back to the island. The locals are so happy and accommodating. They want people to come and experience the beauty of the island. They want to share that with the world. That's very much the culture and the custom of Sicilians, to want people to come and say, look at the beauty, look at how we live our lives, look at the delicious foods that we eat.
So if somebody's making their way to Sicily, is Palermo the place to start?
I personally think so. I'm a bit biased in this regard because I am in the province of Palermo. And as I mentioned, my husband is from here. He's Palermitano. It is such a vibrant, beautiful, chaotic, diverse, complicated, breathtaking city. There is no place on planet Earth equivalent of it. So I would say start here. This is where our international airport is. So I think it's a great hub to fly into. However, it shouldn't just be Palermo. See as much of the island as possible, with a disclaimer attached to this, which is, I think people underestimate the vastness of this island. For example, one of my favorite towns in all of Sicily is Syracuse, specifically Ortigia. Now, Palermo to Syracuse is about 3-4 hours by car. The island is massive. What a lot of people do is they'll see the destination on their For You page, or a friend went and had the best time, and they'll think, great, I'm going to land there and I'm going to tackle the entire island in 5 days. I would not recommend this. Sicily lends itself, just the way that the island flows, the way people are, the culture, piano, piano, slowly, slowly. It really is difficult to see in one go unless you're giving yourself 2 full weeks here. Obviously, you cannot forget the other major hub of Catania, which is the other smaller airport. Then you've got the famous Taormina. Now, this might be a little overhyped as of right now because of the TV shows, because of Instagram. However, it's hyped for a reason. It really is that beautiful. In that category, I would go ahead and throw Cefalù as well.
This is the thing with tourist places. They are hyped for a reason. And it's a blessing and a curse.
There you go.
I was chatting with somebody fairly recently and they said, well, would you go to Rome and miss out the Colosseum because the tourists go there? You'd be a
Beautiful
fool.
example. Exactly.
So the last time I was in Palermo, I was in the height of summer, but it was 47 degrees Celsius.
Oh, can I ask you exactly which month?
It must have been July or August.
Oh, bless. Okay, here's another little disclaimer. June, optimal, ideal. It is my favorite month here. I got married here in the month of June. We're right on the cusp of it almost being too warm, but warm enough that you can still enjoy the beaches, be outside. There's going to be that famous Sicilian sunshine. July and August, specifically August. August has the biggest red flag in my book, and for a few different reasons. It is our hottest month by far. If you love the heat, if you love being toasted, keep in mind, we don't really believe in air conditioning here. It's not really a thing, centralized air conditioning. So even when you're having lunch at a restaurant, you're going to be sweating. So keep all of that in mind. The biggest takeaway for August that I have is we have a holiday here called Ferragosto. the entire country, Sicily specifically, but Italy as a whole, shuts down in August for this holiday. It's when all the Italians go on vacation. So most businesses will close their door for a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks. Some take the entire month of August. So imagine planning your trip. You've done all this research. Ferragosto somehow slipped your radar. You get here, you've spent all the money to get here. You're so looking forward to it. And restaurants are closed. The pharmacy is closed. You can't do X, Y, and Z that you had planned. So I really, really recommend June, even into September. But I gotta say, like you mentioned with Rome, the blessing and the curse is popular for a reason. Tourism is here and well and alive, and I believe will continue to grow for the foreseeable future. So even September is a little touristic, a little chaotic. A lot of people are still coming here. We still have even beautiful weather in even October. Something to consider if you're planning the trip here.
Yeah, you can extend your summer by making it an autumnal trip. Assuming that you're going when things are open and the heat isn't as hot as your oven, what are the things that you must put on your itinerary to go and see?
If you're going in the autumnal phase, like you said, it's actually perfect timing and coincides with our famous Bronte Pistachio Festival. Now, something to know about me is pistachio is near and dear to my heart. I would say before even the internet made a craze of it, I don't know if you are well aware that pistachio is like the newest trendy flavor. Sicily was ahead of this trend for centuries before the internet caught on. So the town of Bronte is famous for probably the world's best pistachios. And we've been lucky enough to go one year, and it takes place in autumn, and everything is pistachio flavored. We had pistachio donuts, pistachio lasagna, pistachio flavored beer, pistachio flavored sausages. I would highly, highly recommend this. Now, this is near to the area of Mount Etna, which is also a must visit, must experience. Etna is famous for wine because of the volcanic soil. So go do some wine tasting while you're over there. After you've done with the festival, go and see the volcano yourself. It is like walking on another planet. It feels very otherworldly because it's like black volcanic ash. Sometimes you'll get lucky enough to see the volcano actually spewing lava, which is just majestic and breathtaking. Another must-see is Scala dei Turchi. This, again, I would put in the otherworldly category. This is near the area of Agrigento, which is a must-see in and of itself because this is sort of our take on ancient Greek temples that you can see here on the island. And so while you're there, Scala dei Turchi is, how can I describe this? It's pretty indescribable. It is almost like a blindingly white mountain that is layered and goes down and meets the sea. You can walk on it and it feels like you're on another planet. The only advice I can give you is just to give it a Google because, like I said, it's pretty indescribable. But those would be my hidden gems, must see, must do.
Wow. The way you describe it, I can sense the excitement about it. Everybody's heard of Etna, but these others...
Yep.
This is why you need a local.
And that's what living here for 3 years will do. Visiting here for a whole decade. I have some tips and tricks up my sleeve from that amount of time.
You mentioned that your husband is Sicilian. And so
yes.
That makes sense as to why you have ended up moving there. But
yes.
The story of how you met and came to interact with Sicily at all, I just absolutely love it because for me, it's like it's a complete American dream, but in reverse.
Yes, I got goosebumps just now. Danielle, you've completely described it because the whole joke that I tell people is I'm living the reverse American dream. I was the type of little girl who, instead of dreaming about marriage and having babies someday, I kept a little journal. And every time I would see a commercial come on TV, or I would see a magazine at a doctor's office that was advertising for this place in the world, whether it be Japan or Norway or anything, I would lock eyes with that and I would remember it. And I would go home and I had a little diary under my pillow and I would write the name of that place because I just knew I wanted to live outside of America. So the first opportunity to escape, I took it. And it was just serendipitous that I met my husband. We both were working for Disney World at the time. He was on the international college program in Epcot in the country of Italy. And I was working at Epcot as a pastry chef. And we met at a international Disney party. So this is a little sort of hidden lore of Disney. When you go to Epcot and you see all of the workers and they're there and you're having a great time and maybe you're drinking around the world and you're being a Disney tourist, we also have a good time behind the scenes because after we clock out, we all meet up internationally and have a huge party together. And so at one of these international parties, I ended up meeting my husband. I just got lucky that he was from one of my favorite regions of Italy. And so I just always say it was very serendipitous.
It certainly helps, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I so love that story because I fell in love with Epcot. It's the best park.
When I was offered a job to work at Disney World after I had graduated culinary school with my baking and pastry degree. It was just one of those sort of domino effects where it just happened to align perfectly with who I am, what I love. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. And with my travel bug and the love for the world and wanting to explore, it was a great stepping stone for me to go from that. And now here I am in Sicily.
It was your pastry skills that got you around the Lake of Epcot. And I imagine that having now landed in Sicily, you must be in your element there.
I might be biased, but I would wager that Sicily itself has the best food in all of Italy. And here's my argument for this. We are so diverse here in Sicily. If you look at the history as a whole, they were conquered by the Normans, by the Arabs. Being an island and being a major hub and a major port, you look back centuries of how many people have landed here. And that has woven its way to create this beautiful, diverse cuisine that is so atypical to your standard plate of pasta. And not to hate on the standard plate of pasta, because I will devour a carbonara or an amatriciana as much as the next person. However, the cuisine here is on an entirely different level. The use of spices, the use of, I would say, more strange ingredients compared to the rest of Italy. We focus on fennel and pine nuts and combining sweet and savory and using every portion of the animal in the street food. And so this was what really tantalized me. I came with my husband to meet my Sicilian in-laws for the first time. I was the first girl he had ever brought home to Sicily. And the second that he took me to the local market called Ballarò, put this on your list as well of places to go. We've got Ballarò and we've got Vucciria as the local markets. You go there and you've got meats that are being grilled in front of you and you've got the freshest seafood ever. And you've just got all of these local produce and maybe fruits and vegetables you've never seen before because we're a very warm Mediterranean climate. We're close to Africa as well. Don't forget that. So that plays a role in the things that are grown here, the food itself, the preparation, and the spices used. Oh my goodness, I am in foodie paradise living here.
So what are your favorite dishes? If you had your perfect Sicilian meal, what would be on the menu?
First and foremost, I will die on this hill. The number one thing is caponata. which is a sweet and sour eggplant dish. There's olives, there's capers, there's caramelized onions in it, there's fried eggplant. My Sicilian mother-in-law makes the best I ever had. So last meal is my Sicilian mother-in-law makes me some caponata. You cannot miss stigghiola. This one is going to be a little mind-bending for some people. However, if you can get over kind of your own mental block about it, it is some of the most delicious grilled meat you will ever have in your life. So it is, brace yourself, lamb intestines that have been stuffed with spring onion and grilled. And after the grill, you hit it with sea salt and a fresh squeeze of lemon. And it is sublime. It is slightly fatty. It's not chewy in the least. It does have the ever so slightly gamiest of flavor, but to me, it's just some of the best grilled meat you would ever try. My food and beverage background is showing because I'm a very adventurous eater. And so another one I would throw in the ring is sarde beccafico. You take the entire sardine fish and you make a roll of it and you stuff it with pine nuts, raisins, breadcrumb, and orange. And those also get grilled and hit with beautiful Sicilian olive oil at the end. Now, I could talk about different dishes until I'm blue in the face. What I would really recommend is take a day, get really hungry, maybe skip breakfast, show up to Ballarò or Vucciria market, and just see where your nose takes you. And that's just the savory side of things. Like I said, pastry chef here, you cannot miss our cassata. You cannot miss the cannolo. If you want the best cannolo you've ever had in the world, take yourself to Central Palermo and you are going to find a nunnery where nuns live. And they've been making cannolo for centuries with the same exact recipe. They haven't changed a thing. It's the size of your face and it's the most delicious thing you've ever had.
Now I understand why people become nuns. I thought they were there to pray.
The cheese ricotta in Sicily will convert anybody. It's that good.
Something that I was told, and I wonder if you would vouch for this as well. When it comes to buying a cannoli, you see these gorgeous displays of all of the cannoli rolled up and piped through, and they're not the ones to go for because they've been pre-piped.
I appreciate you saying this so much because it really needs to be talked about. There is a huge difference. So you want cannolo espress, I'm pretty sure is the verbiage. This basically means they are going to fill it fresh for you. This is imperative. You have to think that shell is a very delicate fried shell. I don't know if you know, but the little bubbles that you see on the outside of that shell, that's caused by Marsala wine. You use some sort of alcohol in the dough, and when it goes in the fryer, it puffs up and kind of creates those bubbles. That means it's very delicate. Now, ricotta is not that wet, but you have to figure the longer it sits there, the more it's going to kind of penetrate that shell. You want it filled right in front of your eyes. And if I can recommend a spot, besides the nuns who make it, because they're just in another category of their own. But let's say you're in that touristic street. On the main street, there's that one street that connects the Teatro Massimo, the Cathedral, Quattro Canti. You're going to find a place called Cannoli & Co. There, you can actually get flavored fillings. And again, this ties back to me being such a pistachio fan. They take their ricotta and they add fresh pistachio paste to it. So it's a lovely, slightly pistachio scented ricotta cream. There's also an almond variation. There's an orange variation. So get your classic one from the nuns and just go visit there because it's just a beautiful, iconic place in its own right. But if you're going to do the touristy thing and be on that road, which you're going to be anyway, go there for your second cannolo.
I love a zesty one. The oranges and the lemons and that sort of citrus fruit. For me, it's...
the agrumi. Our agrumi here is an entirely different world. When we first moved here, we were in Villetta. and I had my own lemon tree. And when I tell you that was a dream come true for me, I am not exaggerating. I went ahead and made my own limoncello. I was making lemon everything. And lemon is such a vital part of our cuisine here. I would venture we use it in more than 50% of our recipes. It really is something not to be missed.
When you moved to Sicily, did you move knowing that you were going to spend so much time sharing it?
The first gut response is absolutely not. If you can believe it, I am a pretty shy person. I never was the type of person who would have been comfortable putting themselves openly online as I have for the past year. And you have to figure I've lived here 3 years and I've taken content creation seriously for 1 year. And I'm beyond grateful. The feedback I've gotten, the community I've built, it has just been life-changing in the absolute best way. I obviously left behind all of my very good friends in America, which was very bittersweet. And one of my very good friends said to me, Danielle, I want you to promise me that when you go, you will consider either starting a blog or some sort of social media account where I can check in on you, where I can see your new life in a new country. And she goes, just consider it. It could even be therapeutic for you. And I thought, oh, sure. I am such a private person that will never be me. And lo and behold, about a year ago, I just could not let go of the fact that I had this unique perspective, this story to tell. And I think what pushed me to do it was I was sick of the narrative online of you go to Sicily and it's la dolce vita and you spend your days having aperitivo, looking at the most beautiful sunset you've ever seen, very romanticized version. And all of those things exist. I'm a big advocate for the slow lifestyle. I've let go a lot of my negative American habits of rushing everywhere, and my worth is tied to productivity. All of that has sort of fallen by the wayside, thankfully. But this journey with social media has been such a gift. I have been able to connect to other people, other expats in particular, who understand fully the sort of double-edged sword that is moving to a place like this. Is it gorgeous? Yes. But is it maybe some of the most slow and horrible bureaucracy you would ever face in terms of, let's say, documentation and getting your permesso di soggiorno to be able to live here legally? Oh, yes, very much so as well. That's really what I wanted to share with people online.
Every time I say to somebody, I want to live in Italy, they say, yeah, you think you do.
Italy is one of the most romanticized countries in the world, but moving here, living here, life doesn't stop being life just because the buildings are gorgeous and because the sea views take your breath away. You still have to function and figure out daily life. When you see these beautiful pictures of Sicily, you're looking more often than not places like Taormina and Palermo and Cefalù. And these are our bigger hubs. These 1 euro homes are in these sort of desolate places where you would have to completely change your lifestyle. There isn't modern amenities. There isn't a one-stop shop like Target in America. Stores are closed here every single day from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. You have to get used to working your schedule around that. We are constantly celebrating holidays. I believe it's an excuse for people to just eat the delicious food here. I'm on to Sicily. I'm on to Italy in general. It's always a saint holiday. Today is a holiday, by the way.
Happy holiday. Has moving to Sicily changed your connection or sense of your own identity as an American?
Absolutely. My self-worth was completely attached to my productivity in America. And I was very much a people pleaser. I cared very much what people thought. I had lived there my entire life. So more than 30 years, I was operating in this certain way. And you show up in Sicily and it's a completely different mindset. Community comes first. I would venture to say that America is not really shaped in that way. Yes, people care about each other, but we have a dialect saying here in Sicily. It's called sangue mio, which means blood of my blood. And you say this to somebody to say, you are a part of me. You will always be a part of me. We are connected so deeply in that way. So I'm able to feel more deeply. I'm able to love more deeply. Nothing here is superficial. I feel like in America, it's very kind of like glitz and glamour. And don't get me wrong, there are times I miss those aspects. Something as superficial as getting in my car and driving 5 minutes to go get an iced coffee. Something like that would be unheard of here. However, here you have passeggiata, which is your daily walk. You go and you digest the food of the big, delicious meal you had, most likely shared with family. You say hello to your neighbor because you know everybody personally. I really had to grapple with myself of slowing down, being okay in the quiet moments, and I'm really grateful for it.
It does sound like life has gained a dimension.
Absolutely.
And if people want to follow along, they'll find you Danielle in Sicily and underscores between the 3 words.
Yep, underscores between each of the words Danielle in Sicily across all platforms.
How useful is it to have any words of Italian? And if it's a dialect, what should we know?
Now, this isn't Rome, this isn't Florence, we're talking Sicily, right? I would say is maybe one of those regions of Italy that is lesser accommodating to English speakers. Not everybody operates in dialect, but a huge portion of them do. I'd like to tell just a quick little story in relation to how imperative it is to know the Italian language. When we first moved here 3 years ago, I'm talking within maybe 2 to 3 months of landing here, I had to go to what's called the questura, which anybody who has dealt with the questura knows exactly the heartache and hardship that I am talking about. It is not for the weak. It is for everybody who lands here who has to deal with paperwork or bureaucracy. And so we show up the questura. I'm trying to get my permesso di soggiorno, which allows me to live here legally. You show up to this place and it's you and probably 200 other immigrants. There is no line anywhere. Forget a queue. A queue doesn't exist. They don't even know what the word queue means. There are no numbers. Everybody is waving their papers. It feels more like concert energy than it does you trying to get legal documentation done. It is just anarchy is the only way I can describe it. And so my husband has to throw elbows to get us to the front of the line to see who we have to talk to, whether it's Giuseppe or Giovanni. And I have to say, when you're moving to Italy, it is imperative that you have an insider connection. I am lucky in that regard that my husband knows people, whether his cousin knows a guy or the family friend knows a guy. That has helped us tremendously. So we get to the front of the questura line. He ends up shoving me inside without even them giving the approval to do so. And I'm grabbing at him to follow me. And they're telling me, no, 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 no. You have to come in here alone. He cannot come. This is just on you. I proceed to spend the next 4 hours trying to do all of my legal documentation fully in Italian, not feeling confident at all in the language. I always joke I'm gonna one day like write a book of just how crazy and chaotic my life has been. And this questura situation will be one or several chapters. It was the most anxiety inducing experience of my life. So to answer your question in a long-winded format, it is imperative that you at least know some basic Italian. And I'll say this as a side note. Sicilians in general will meet you where you are. They are so appreciative to any effort on your end to try to communicate with them. They know you might not be fluent and they know zero English, but they appreciate so much the effort. I'm always the type of person that in my travels, I like to make sure I at least know the bare minimum of please, thank you, where's the bathroom, where's the train, how to order wine or the local beverage. And so I'm just the type of traveler who has those ready. But in terms of dialect, I wouldn't worry yourself with it. But it is a very fun language, the dialect of Sicilian, I will say.
The other language of a place is its customs. And I suppose one of the things coming from the States is a tipping culture where anybody does anything for you, you tend to give them a tip, especially restaurants and bars. And some people are now tipping as much as 25% in certain areas of the States, which is huge. But that's not quite the same in Europe. So what's the local custom in Sicily?
First of all, it's gotten a little out of control in America. I was there about a year ago and was absolutely shocked to my core at how out of hand it had gotten. But I digress. Here in Sicily, it is not the norm at all. It is not a part of the culture. I would venture to say that in some places, it might even be a little offensive to somebody depending on how you catch them on the day. In my Sicilian husband's family, I'll use his aunt as an example. She will show up at our house with some beautiful fresh produce from the market because she had just been there. And she's so sweet that she thought of us and thought, oh, they would love these, fresh peaches. Let me get a few and drop them. We will thank her up and down. I'm American. It's very much a part of my culture to be thankful and appreciative, especially if someone goes out of their way to do something for you. And she will almost be offended by the level of gratitude that I have, especially in terms of familial connections. It's just expected. Thank yous are not part of the norms here. And so I would say when you're out and about, let's say a service absolutely blows you away. You've had a wonderful time. You can tip them 1-2 euros. I wouldn't go any further beyond that. It's not really common in restaurants. However, Sicilians in general are very easygoing, very flowy. We live on an island after all, right? And so if you really feel inclined, go for it. But it is not the typical thing to do here.
Is there a Sicilian custom that you might not even think to look for if you were coming from elsewhere, but it's something that all the locals do naturally?
I don't know if it's specifically Sicilian. I think it's more because we're in the South. And I think because they're more passionate here. They are an outwardly loving people. You are not expected to say thank you, but you are expected to be, let's say, doted upon. So physical touch is a big one, kissing culture, hugging culture. I always make the joke that if you're at a Sicilian function, it will take you probably 10 tries to say goodbye to somebody, and maybe an hour later than when you actually wanted to leave, because people will just keep pulling you back in for more kisses, more hugs, more conversation. You say the initial goodbye, then you say the goodbye from the doorway, then you say goodbye from the balcony, then you say goodbye from the car, and then they watch you pull away to make sure that you make it onto the road. But it all boils down to it's out of love, which is a beautiful thing here. I think this is something we're missing in America, that sense of community, that sense of just intense love and devotion for another person. I think it can be a little superficial in America. It's very surface level. That is so not the case here. People really love with their entire being, with their heart and with their soul.
The wrap-up, roundup, quick-fire finish is now ready for boarding.
What would you say is your top thing to see or do in Sicily?
Being a foodie, I will always advocate for going to the markets, trying the food there. But beyond that, go and stay at an agriturismo. These are farm stays where they make everything on property, from the meats to the cheeses to growing their own fruits and vegetables. They will more likely than not produce honey or olive oil. So agriturismos are huge in my book. And then what coincides with that is wineries. Go and do a wine tasting. Donna Fugata is a huge one here. They have multiple locations over the island. It is a lovely experience. They do food pairings, and the wine in general on this island is another level. Specifically, any white wines or any white sparkling wines are absolutely exquisite.
What would you say is a tourist trap or a common mistake to avoid?
I would typically say that any restaurant that you see that has your menu both in English and Italian would be a tourist trap. If you were in Rome, that would be the case. Florence, Capri. It is really difficult to find bad food here in Sicily, even with those places. So I would say even that isn't really a tourist trap in and of itself. They're not really out to get tourists. Sicilians really put their best foot forward, wanting people to love this island as deeply and passionately as they do. So I would just use your common sense, right? If something seems too cheap or if something seems a bit off, it most likely is. But for the most part, I haven't really come across that.
What's your favourite time of year to visit Sicily?
June is an absolutely beautiful month. We're just starting to approach the temperatures of maybe getting too hot, but still doable. And then September and October are lovely as well. Skip summer unless you just love being boiled from the inside out. If you are great with heat, then I would advocate for that because that's the time to go to the beaches. So I guess it depends on, do you want the island for yourself? Or do you want to prioritize that Sicilian sunshine and the nicer weather?
Do you have a book or a film recommendation if people want to get into the Sicilian spirit?
The only one that comes to my mind is The Godfather, and that's in Corleone. And this is a very small mountain town. And this was the perfect epitome of what Sicily was like in the 80s and the 90s. And I would say doesn't really reflect what Sicily is now. We now have an anti-mafia museum in the heart of Palermo that is beautiful to see. We've got beautiful murals all over the city that commemorate the politicians' lives that we've lost. We've got these beautiful memorials. We've got stickers that are big and bold on all of the shops and locally owned places that are anti-mafia. So I reference that film to kind of show you what Sicily was and then the beautiful place that it has now become. And I think that's why tourism has now exploded. It's lovely to see that the island itself can shine and the people itself can shine without that negative aspect. There was not a tourism industry at all. And unfortunately, I think the mafia took that away from this island and its inhabitants for upwards of 4 decades. So the fact that you can say Sicily to somebody and they think about the food, they think about Cefalo and Taormina, they think about our beautiful beaches. What a beautiful story arc for the island as a whole.
And talking of food, what would you say is the top food or drink that you just have to try when you get to Sicily?
Anything on this island that has eggplant in it. This goes back to the caponata dish that I mentioned earlier, but this is also parmigiana. And now, if you've ever think you've had an eggplant parmesan in your life, take whatever notions you have of that dish and throw them away. And when you come here, experience eggplant parmesan. In that category is pasta alla Norma. This is our regional pasta dish. This is fried eggplant. This has a ricotta salata on the top of it. So ricotta that's been dried, and so it's now in a hard kind of salty brick, and that gets grated over the top of the pasta. It is exquisite.
And if you want to take home a little piece of Sicily with you, you want something authentic to remind you of your trip there, what could you keep an eye out for?
I will always advocate that some of the best souvenirs that you can take home are souvenirs that are edible. So when you are here, keep your eyes peeled for anything pistachio flavored. Bonus points if it comes from the region of Bronte, but get yourself a little bottle of pistachio liquore, which is the pistachio cousin of limoncello. Anything pistachio flavored. We've got local pistachio candies, candied nuts. Fico di India is also a very local and unique flavor. That's our local prickly pear, which is a little bit herbal, a little floral, sweet. So look out for anything that's Fico di India flavored. We also make a liquore of that. And then if you want something a bit more physical, you cannot go wrong with ceramics on this island. And if I could recommend a specific one, it's called the cannoli, which is basically a pine cone. And this represents the rich history of Sicily. The pine cone is hard, and Sicily itself can kind of be hard on the outside, but it is just so beautiful underneath. So it's a pine cone shaped ceramic. We are also famous for teste di moro, which are two heads, a man and a woman. It's typically almost like a planter. So they're kind of hollow on the inside. You could put a plant in it, or you could use it just as a keepsake to keep little knickknacks in. But go ahead and look up the story of it. It's a little gruesome and a little bleak, but very fascinating. We're also famous for our trinacria symbol, which is Medusa's head with 3 legs coming out of it. And this is our national symbol of Sicily. Each of those really represents the island beautifully.
Danielle Nemesio, travel and lifestyle creator, also known as Danielle in Sicily. Thank you so much for unlocking the island for us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my absolute pleasure to highlight this island.
Thank you so much once again to Danielle Nemesio for unlocking her adopted home of Sicily, and I think you can really tell why. She has fallen in love with that island, and I think you might too. If you head there, tell me all about it. Always get in touch. Your contact details are on the website, and it'll be lovely to hear what you think of it. If you have only just found this podcast, then I highly recommend click a follow now, wherever it is you're currently listening, and that way, whenever you want to travel somewhere else in the future, you can very easily find us again and see if we've got an episode on that destination. New episodes come out every Wednesday, so I'll have another one for you soon. And until then, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.